My name is Chloe. I'm 32 years old, and the night my sister stole the man I was going to marry was the last time I ever cried. Tears, I learned, are a luxury for those who still have something left to lose. I had lost everything. My love, my future, my family, and the very ground of my own sanity. They took it all and told me I was the one who was crazy. For 10 years, that accusation was the engine that kept my heart beating. Now I was back to prove them right. I'm crazy. Crazy enough to burn their perfect world to the ground and dance in the ashes. The memory is not a fuzzy, dreamlike thing. It's a shard of glass embedded in my mind, perfectly preserved, its edges as sharp today as they were a decade ago. It was the night before my wedding. The air in our childhood home was thick with the scent of roses and vanilla cake, a saccharine perfume that still makes my stomach clench. My dress, a cascade of ivory silk and delicate lace, hung on the back of my door like a ghost of a future I would never have. I was 22, incandescent with a love so pure and blinding it left me stupid. Ethan was my world. He was the quiet strength to my chaotic energy, the calm voice that soothed my anxieties. We had met in college, two halves of a whole, or so the cliché went. He had proposed under a sky full of stars on our 4th anniversary, and I had wept with a joy so profound I thought my heart would burst. We were building a life, a real one, filled with picket fence dreams and the promise of forever. My sister, Amanda, was my maid of honor. She was 2 years younger, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. While I was passionate and sometimes difficult, Amanda was serene and effortlessly charming. My parents adored her, my aunts and uncles doted on her. She was the sun, and I was the satellite caught in her orbit, forever reflecting her light but never truly shining on my own. I loved her though, fiercely. I thought she was my best friend, my confidant, my other half. I was so wrong. That night, the house was full of laughter and celebration. Our rehearsal dinner had been perfect. Ethan had given a speech that made my mother cry. His hand holding mine so tightly I felt our pulses sink. Later, as the guests left and the house grew quiet, a strange unease began to prickle at my skin. Ethan had gone upstairs to my father's study to get some air, and Amanda had followed him moments later, claiming she needed to discuss a last-minute detail about the ceremony. An hour passed. The silence in the house became a roar in my ears. I climbed the stairs, the silk of my robe whispering against my legs. The door to the study was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, a happy, teasing phrase already on my lips. It died there, strangled by the sight before me. Amanda was pressed against my father's mahogany desk, her shimmering rehearsal dinner dress hiked up around her waist. Ethan was in front of her, his hands tangled in her blonde hair, his mouth on hers. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was desperate, hungry, a collision of bodies that spoke of a history I knew nothing about. My world didn't just crack, it atomized. The sound that escaped my throat was something inhuman, a raw, wounded cry that echoed in the sudden, terrible stillness. They sprang apart, their faces a mask of shock and guilt. Amanda's lips were swollen, her eyes wide with a fear that quickly morphed into something else, defiance. Ethan couldn't look at me. He just stared at the floor, his chest heaving, a stranger in the skin of the man I loved. "Chloe," he started, his voice a hoarse whisper. "Don't," I choked out, my body trembling so violently I had to grip the doorframe to stay upright. "Don't you dare." My voice, when I finally found it, was a venomous hiss. "How could you, Amanda?" The night before my wedding. Amanda pulled her dress down, her movements unnervingly calm. She looked at me, not with remorse, but with a cool pity that set my blood on fire. "It's not what you think, Chloe. You're overreacting." Overreacting. The word was so absurd it was almost funny. I find my fiancé and my sister together, and I'm overreacting? That's when the gaslighting began. It was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Ethan, desperate to deflect, latched onto her narrative. "We were just talking. You're hysterical. You've been so stressed about the wedding, you're seeing things that aren't there." My parents, drawn by the noise, arrived to find me screaming and Amanda crying delicate, crocodile tears. She spun a story of me being paranoid, of twisting a moment of comfort into something ugly. She claimed Ethan had been feeling overwhelmed, and she was just reassuring him as a friend, as a sister. My family, my entire support system collapsed in on me. They chose her. Of course they chose her. The perfect, calm daughter over the hysterical, emotional one. "Chloe, calm down," my mother said, her voice sharp with embarrassment. "You're making a scene. You've always been so dramatic." He was kissing her. I shrieked, pointing a shaking finger. They were together. "You're delusional," my father said, his face a stony mask of disappointment. "You've always been jealous of your sister's bond with Ethan. You're inventing things to drive them apart." That was the line that broke me. Jealous. They saw my agony not as a righteous response to a soul-crushing betrayal, but as a symptom of my own flawed character. I was the problem, not them. I looked at Ethan, pleading with my eyes for him to tell the truth, to save me. He just stood there, a coward hiding behind my sister's lies. The wedding was cancelled. Within a week, Ethan and Amanda were officially a couple. My family rallied around them, celebrating their brave, true love that had blossomed from the ashes of a mismatched engagement. I was the cinder, the inconvenient, messy remnant of a fire they were all too happy to forget. I was told to be happy for them, to move on, to accept it, to apologize for my behavior. Packed one bag. I took the money from my wedding fund, the only thing that was truly mine, and I walked out of that house and never looked back. No goodbyes. No tearful farewells. I simply vanished. For 10 years, I built a new life from the rubble of the old one. I moved to a city where no one knew my name. The first 2 years were a blur of cheap apartments, instant noodles, and a grief so vast it felt like a physical presence, a shadow I couldn't shake. The bitterness was a poison, but it was also my sustenance. Kept me alive. Kept me focused. I worked 3 jobs, put myself through business school at night, and slowly, painstakingly, clawed my way up. I traded my softness for steel. I learned to read people, to see the cracks in their façades, to understand the currency of secrets and lies. I became a different woman. Colder, sharper, more dangerous. The naive, trusting girl who believed in forever was dead and buried. In her place stood a woman who believed in only one thing: retribution. I followed their lives from a distance, a digital ghost haunting their social media feeds. They had gotten married a year after I left, a lavish ceremony I wasn't invited to. They bought a sprawling house in our hometown, the kind with a perfectly manicured lawn and a porch swing. Ethan's career in finance took off. Amanda became a pillar of the community, chairing charity balls and sitting on the boards of local foundations. They were Mr. and Mrs. Perfect, their life a curated collection of smiling photos and humble brag status updates. But I knew the truth. A foundation built on betrayal is rotten to the core. I spent years patiently gathering my tools, learning their weaknesses, waiting for the perfect moment to return and knock it all down. Now that moment was here. I returned to town not as the broken girl who had fled, but as a successful investment consultant. I rented a sleek, minimalist apartment downtown with a view of the city skyline. I was a stranger with a familiar face, a ghost from their past they had long since exorcised. My first move was to re-establish a presence, but on my own terms. I joined the same exclusive country club they belonged to. The first time they saw me, the blood drained from their faces. I was standing by the bar, swirling a glass of scotch, dressed in a tailored black suit that cost more than my first car. I looked them straight in the eye, gave them a slow, cold smile, and walked away without a word. I let their imaginations do the work. Why was I back? What did I want? The fear in their eyes was a small, satisfying appetizer. The main course was about to be served. My revenge was not a bomb. It was a cancer. A slow, creeping sickness that would invade their lives cell by cell until the whole organism was consumed. I started with Ethan. I knew from my research that he had a massive deal pending, a merger that would be the crown jewel of his career. It was fragile, built on trust and reputation. I also knew he had a weakness for praise and a deep-seated insecurity about his own intellect, always feeling like he had to prove he was more than just a lucky guy who married well. I used an anonymous, encrypted email service to send a single message to the CEO of the company he was trying to merge with. The message was simple, elegant, and devastating. Subject: a word of caution. Before finalizing your partnership with Ethan, you may want to conduct a more thorough due diligence on his personal ethics. Some foundations are not as stable as they appear. A man who builds his happiness on the ruins of another's is not a man to be trusted with an empire. Ask him about his first engagement. It was just a seed, a tiny grain of doubt. But in the high-stakes world of corporate finance, a single seed of doubt can grow into a forest of mistrust. I knew the CEO was a notoriously cautious man. He wouldn't pull the deal, not yet. But he would watch Ethan. He would scrutinize every number, question every promise. The pressure on Ethan would double overnight. Next, I turned my attention to Amanda. Her entire identity was wrapped up in being the benevolent queen of local society. Her pet project was the annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala, an event she micromanaged with an iron fist. It was her stage, the place where she received her yearly dose of public adoration. I knew from a disgruntled former board member that Amanda was not as saintly as she appeared. She was careless with the accounting, often blurring the lines between charity expenses and her personal ones. A designer dress for the gala, a lavish planning lunch for her friends. It was all justified as for the cause. I hired a forensic accountant, a discreet professional who could find a needle in a haystack of receipts. Took him 2 weeks. He found it. Not a massive fraud, nothing that would land her in jail, but a pattern of ethically dubious spending. Enough to tarnish a pristine reputation. I had the report compiled, a neat little package of hypocrisy and entitlement. I didn't release it. Not yet. I held it, a loaded gun, waiting for the perfect moment to pull the trigger. The strain began to show. Ethan was working late every night, his face etched with a new anxiety. Amanda was frantically planning her gala, but the joy was gone, replaced by a brittle, defensive energy. They started to fight. I knew because I had paid a disgruntled house cleaner for information. She told me about the hushed, angry arguments behind closed doors, the slammed doors, the nights Ethan spent in the guest room. He suspected her of something. My anonymous email had done its work, turning his mind inward, making him question the very bedrock of their relationship. Who could have sent it? Who knew about his first engagement? Only family. He started watching Amanda, questioning her calls, her meetings. The trust between them, already a fragile thing, was beginning to splinter. I decided it was time to turn up the heat. I orchestrated a chance encounter with Ethan at the country club. I found him alone at the bar, nursing a whiskey, looking exhausted. "Long day?" I asked, my voice smooth and neutral as I slid onto the stool next to him. He flinched, his eyes darting around as if he were afraid of being seen with me. "Chloe, what do you want?" "Want? Nothing from you, Ethan. I just live here now. Small town." I ordered a drink. "You look stressed. The big merger, I assume." "I hear it's a delicate situation." His head snapped toward me. "How do you know about that?" I gave him a knowing smile. "I'm an investment consultant. It's my business to know things. And I know that in deals like this, reputation is everything. One hint of instability, personal or professional, and it can all fall apart." I let the words hang in the air, a veiled threat wrapped in a casual observation. I saw the flash of terror in his eyes. He thought I was the one who had sent the email. "But let him. Stay away from me," he seethed, his voice low. "Stay away from my family." "Is that what we are?" I asked, my voice dropping to a whisper. "A family. Families don't do what you did to me, Ethan. They don't build their homes on top of graves." I stood up, leaving my drink untouched. "Good luck with the deal," I said, my voice dripping with false sincerity. I hope it doesn't fall through. It would be a shame for everyone to find out it was because of your character. He was rattled. I saw him later with Amanda. His face a thundercloud. He was gesturing wildly, she was shaking her head, her face pale. The cancer was metastasizing. The confrontation I was waiting for came a week later. Amanda showed up at my apartment building, unannounced. She looked haggard, the polished veneer stripped away to reveal the frantic, insecure woman underneath. "What are you doing?" she demanded the moment I opened the door. She pushed past me into the living room. "I live here, Amanda. It's a free country." I closed the door slowly, savoring the moment. "You're trying to ruin us," she accused, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and rage. "That email to Ethan's CEO, the rumors you're spreading at the club. You're trying to destroy everything we've built." "What you built?" I laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. "You mean what you stole? Let's be clear about the architecture of your life, shall we? You didn't build it. You scavenged it from the wreckage of mine." "It wasn't like that," she cried. "Ethan and I. We had feelings for each other. It was real. It would have happened eventually." "Oh, I know it was real," I said, stepping closer, my voice dropping to a dangerous calm. "I saw how real it was on my father's desk the night before I was supposed to promise him my forever. Don't you dare try to paint your betrayal as some tragic love story. It was cheap. It was cruel. And you loved every second of it." Tears welled in her eyes. The same tears she had used to convince our parents I was the villain. "I was young," she whispered. "I made a mistake." "No," I said, my voice like ice. "A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. What you did was a calculated act of demolition. You saw what I had, you wanted it, and you took it. And the worst part is, you didn't even have the decency to feel guilty. You let our entire family crucify me to protect your perfect narrative." For a fleeting second, I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. A glimmer of the sister I once knew, a flash of genuine remorse. The sight of her, so broken and afraid, caused a strange, unwelcome pang in my chest. It was a phantom limb of an emotion I thought I had amputated long ago. Pity. Was this what I wanted? To see her completely destroyed. The moment of weakness passed as quickly as it came, burned away by another memory. My mother's face, cold and unforgiving, as she packed my childhood photos into a box. "It's for the best, Chloe," she had said, not meeting my eye. "It's too painful for Amanda and Ethan to be reminded of your episode." My episode. My heartbreak, my humiliation, reduced to a footnote in their love story. The memory solidified my resolve. I was not the villain here. I was the one holding them accountable. I was the karma they had managed to outrun for 10 years. "You're not going to get away with this," Amanda sobbed, her composure finally shattering. "Get away with what?" I asked innocently. "I haven't done anything. I'm just living my life. If your world is so fragile that my mere presence can bring it down, then it was never very strong to begin with, was it? Open the door. Get out, Amanda. And don't come back." She stumbled out, defeated. I closed the door and leaned against it, my heart hammering in my chest. The confrontation hadn't been satisfying. It had been draining. But it was necessary. The final act was approaching. The night of the Children's Hospital Charity Gala arrived. It was the biggest social event of the year, and Amanda's magnum opus. The ballroom was a sea of glittering gowns and tailored tuxedos. Amanda stood at the entrance, greeting guests, a perfect smile plastered on her face, though I could see the dark circles under her eyes that her makeup couldn't quite conceal. Ethan was by her side, looking distracted and grim. His merger deal was on life support, and he knew it. I had saved my ammunition for this night. This was the stage where their world would end, not with a whisper, but with a bang. I had leaked the forensic accountant's report on the charity's finances to a single, notoriously tenacious local investigative journalist. I gave it to her that morning, on the condition that she hold the story until exactly 9 p.m. At 8:45 p.m., Amanda took the stage to give her keynote address. The room fell silent. Spotlights followed her as she walked to the podium, looking every bit the graceful, benevolent socialite. "Welcome everyone," she began, her voice ringing with practiced warmth. "Tonight we are here for the children. We are here to celebrate community, to celebrate giving, and to celebrate the power of compassion." As she spoke, I made my final move. I had one more piece of evidence, my ace in the hole. A few weeks prior, I had contacted a woman I knew Ethan was having an affair with, a junior analyst at his firm. It wasn't hard to find her. Ethan was sloppy, arrogant. The woman was bitter, feeling used and discarded. For a price, she had given me copies of their text messages. Explicit, damning conversations that not only proved his infidelity but also showed his contempt for his needy, social-climbing wife. I forwarded the entire chain of messages to a select group of people in the room. The town's biggest gossips, Amanda's closest friends, and the members of the charities board. At precisely 9 p.m., as Amanda was reaching the crescendo of her speech about integrity and trust, a single phone buzzed. Then another. And another. A wave of soft electronic chimes swept across the ballroom. Heads bent down. Eyes widened. Whispers started to ripple through the crowd. A low, venomous tide. Up on the stage, Amanda faltered, sensing the shift in the room's atmosphere. She looked out at the sea of faces, no longer looking at her with adoration, but with a mixture of shock, pity, and disgust. Her smile wavered. At the same moment, the journalist's online article went live. The headline was brutal. Tarnish on the tiara. A closer look at the Children's Hospital Gala's finances. More phones buzzed as the push notification hit. The whispers grew louder, turning into a stunned murmur. Amanda's face went white. She looked to Ethan for support, but he was staring at his own phone. His face a mask of pure horror. One of his colleagues was showing him the text messages. His world was imploding right alongside hers. A woman in the front row, one of Amanda's best friends, stood up and walked out, her face a mask of contempt. Then another. And another. The room began to empty, a silent, damning exodus. Amanda stood alone on the stage, the spotlight a cruel interrogation lamp. Her perfect world, her carefully constructed life, had been dismantled in the space of 5 minutes. She looked out at the remaining crowd, her eyes frantically searching for an explanation, for an ally. And then her eyes found mine. I was standing at the back of the room by the door, watching her. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just held her gaze, my expression a blank canvas onto which she could project all of her ruin. In that moment she knew. She knew it was all me. The strength seemed to drain out of her. Her shoulders slumped. The microphone slipped from her hand, hitting the stage with a thud that echoed through the half-empty ballroom. Ethan, cornered and exposed, simply turned and walked off the stage, abandoning her, just as he had abandoned me all those years ago. I watched for another moment as she stood there, a fallen queen on a lonely stage, and then I turned and walked out into the cool night air. There was no elation, no surge of triumphant joy. The fire of revenge that had fueled me for a decade had burned itself out, leaving behind a strange, quiet emptiness. The bitterness was gone. The pain was gone. In their place was a profound, hollow calm. I didn't get my old life back. I didn't want it. That girl was gone forever. But as I walked away from the glittering ruins of their lives, I felt something I hadn't felt in 10 years. Felt free. I had not just reclaimed my story. I had written the ending myself. The past no longer had any power over me. It was just a story about a girl I used to know. And for the first time I was ready to start a new one. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left, and thank you for watching.